Hello everybody, today we're going to talk about how we can symbolize layers in ArcGIS Pro using quantifiable methods. In the last session we talked about how we could style using non-quantifiable methods. Here we're going to take a look at numeric data. So any kind of numeric data that you're working with can be used to style using quantifiable methods. So first what you're going to want to do is check out your data set that you're wanting to symbolize and see what kind of information is associated with it. So I'm going to go into the attribute table for that layer, and I'm going to take a look at some of these different characteristics of that feature class. So in this case I see something like population, so that might be a good attribute to symbolize, and any other numeric data, things like the shape area, etc., would work as well. So now that I know that, I'm going to want to make sure that if I'm going to use population, I'm going to want to make sure that that attribute is set to a non-text value, and I'm going to do that by going into my catalog window, finding my file geodatabase, and then right-clicking on the feature class in question and going to design and then down to fields. And in here I can see it'll tell me all the different data types for that feature class, and in this case population is a non-text value, so I can use any kind of quantifiable methods. Any attributes that are labeled as text are not going to be available to quantify. So once I've determined that, I can now go into the symbolization window. So select your layer in the contents pane, click the appearance tab, and then select symbology, and that'll bring up the symbology pane. So as you can see right now, I'm using a single symbol. In the previous session we talked about unique values for text-based attributes. Because we have numeric attributes, I can use any one of these options here for my numeric data symbolization. I'm going to start with graduated colors, so I'm going to select that first, and I'm going to want to determine what field I want to use. So I've already thought about that. I'm going to use population. If I'd like to normalize that, normalization means that I would be comparing it to another type of an attribute. So for instance, let's say my field was maybe the number of unemployed people in the area. I could normalize that against the total population. In this case, I'm not going to normalize, I'm just going to go with population as my main field, and then I'm going to select my method. So I've got a number of different methods in which I can break up these different classification intervals here, and in this case natural breaks means it's just going to break it up based on the natural breaks in the data sets. We've got other methods here, things like quantile, which will distribute the data a little bit more evenly, the color more evenly. However, the classification intervals are not even. You could use equal interval, etc. There's all of these different options which you can read up in this list here. So in this case I'm going to specify the number of classes. I'm going to maybe use 7 classes here, and if you want to change your color scheme you can go ahead and hit this drop down in this section here. Now down in the lower part you've got classes, you've got a histogram section, and you can set some scale ranges as well if you want to. In the classes section here you can change the symbol by changing the color scheme directly here, or if you want to change individual symbols you can simply just click on the symbol itself and you can either change the entire look of that particular symbol or tweak the individual properties themselves. If you'd like to change them all at once, you've got a more drop down button here, and you can select things like format all symbols. So if I wanted to do maybe change the symbol completely for all of those classifications, I can do that here, or in the properties section I can change things like maybe the color and the width, for instance. So we've got a few other different types of methods. We're using get graduated colors. We could use something like graduated symbols. And what I'll just turn off the background, but graduated symbols means that it's going to give you a minimum size value for your point and a maximum size value for your point, and it distributes them equally within the interior classifications. The other option is you could use a proportional symbol, and what that does is it creates the symbol size based on the amount of data for that particular record. So you'll see that you get quite a different look than, say, the graduated symbols. And the other option that's interesting is the dot density. So here you can use dots to symbolize the number of people, in this case the population. So we've got a dot size, we can increase that, and we've got a dot value. So in this case, one person represents, one dot represents 2,000 people. If you'd like more dots, you can lower that number, and that'll increase the number of dots. If it's too much, you can increase the dot value, and that'll lower the number of dots proportionally on your screen. You can also change the symbol here by clicking in this section. You've seen that already. And also this label section here is what's going to show up in the legend. So we might want to rename that to something that's a bit more meaningful when it does show up on the layout. I'll just rename it to population. And that's about it for styling layers using quantifiable methods. So thanks for watching, and we will talk to you next time. Bye now.